Hey, what's up YouTube? Today I'll be installing the clutch and putting everything back together. There's a lot of work for today, so let's get down to it. Start off with replacing the rear main seals. I only replace the seals since the housing on mine doesn't leak, so I'm not gonna do it. The seal came with a guide. You can just slide it in and hammer it in. It makes installing the seal so much easier, and once you finish, it just pops right off. Next, remove the bearing. If you don't have a bearing puller, you can use a wet paper towel. Keep stuffing it in. The paper towel will push the bearing out. Next, install the bearings. I use a flat disc to start the bearing off so it doesn't go in crooked. Then I use a socket the same size with the bearings to hammer it in. Next, install the flywheels. I had a machine shop resurface my flywheels. It will usually run about $50 more or less depending on where you go. You may see me using an impact gun in the video, but I do torque everything down afterward. So make sure you torque everything down to spec. Next, clean off all the grease on the surface. Next, installing the clutch. There is a marking that says gearbox side. Make sure that side is facing the transmission. Next, install the pressure plate. So after installing the pressure plate, you can now pull out the clutch alignment tools. Next, I clean off the sticky residue from the shaft so the bearing moves in and out easier. Next, install the forks and the locking pin and install the bearings. Now it's time to install the transmission. I jack up the front so the back is tilting down, and it is easier to install the transmission that way. After a little bit of wiggling and the transmission sliding, you can now reinstall the bolt. After all the bolts go back in, you can now reinstall the starter. Next, I installed the seals on the shifter shaft and the seals for the tail of the transmission. You can do this when the transmission is off the car. It is much easier that way, but it did not come on time when I have the transmission off the car. All you need to do is get a socket with the same diameter and tap it in. Next, install the shift linkage. So to remove this or install this, all you need to do is just remove the C-clip cover and remove the pin, and it should slide out. Next, reinstall the hex bolt for the shifter plate. Next, reinstall the dampener. You will need a 30mm thin wall socket to do this. Next, reinstall the drive shaft. Next, reinstall auto bracket. Then tighten auto bolt for the drive shaft. Next, reinstall the heat shield. Reinstall the exhaust. And last thing is to pump in your new transmission fluid. And that's it for today, so enjoy your new clutch.